Of the Griggs County Commission, November 2nd at 2:30. Please all rise for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call. Gabriel. Here. Tranby,
He's going to be gone today.
not going to attend.
No.
Zorn.
Here.
Edlund.
Steph is not going to be here today.
And Wakefield's present. So, given that, we can conduct the meeting with a quorum, but keep in mind that any votes we take have to be unanimous, because it still takes a majority of the 5 members. So one vote against anything will be a killer. Okay? Have a look at the agenda, please.
Make the motion to approve the agenda.
We have a motion, excuse me, by Avriel to approve the agenda. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Agenda approved. If you'll have a look at the October 19th meeting minutes. Sam, anything you see in the minutes?
Nope.
Make the motion to approve the minutes as presented, if that's the right way,
And dispense with the reading.
and dispense with the reading.
Okay, we have a motion by Avriel to approve the October 19th meeting minutes as presented and dispense with the reading. Would there be a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes approved. On to the bills. Sam, anything with the bills?
Nothing that I see.
Not a lot of them today.
Nope. And we're still working on closing books, since this is pretty early in the month. So the townships and all that stuff will be at your next meeting.
Guys. Hey.
Hello, Jamie. Tyler Technologies.
That is for the recorder's office, recorder or clerk of court's office. We do it every year, so that's just their annual thing. And it has been budgeted for.
Connie Esslinger.
She came in and helped Maddie for a day.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, it was like a couple hours. I put on the voucher how many hours.
Is there,
Sounds like
is
two
there,
days.
is that in the budget?
Yes.
Okay. So the DNA mobility contract's all paid up front? The 91,000?
Yep. Yep.
Is this for the current, the coming year, or this past year?
This was for the current year.
Well, this is, but
This is
where-
the one. This is what we got, but it got missed, and so it was from back in June.
Okay, so do we want to revise this number then in the budget?
Mm.
No, this number here, Sam. Too many zeros.
Oh. Oh yeah. Mhm.
So it's supposed to be 9,100 instead of 91,000?
Yep.
So I see 91 on there, but that's why I wasn't sure what was going on.
Yep. Thank you for catching that.
Big numbers always get my attention. So when you're ready, we'll need a motion to approve the budget with the amendment of Tyler and DNA Mobility, Inc. from 91,000 to 9,100.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zorn to accept the bills as presented with the change to DNA Mobility from 91,000 to 9,100. Is there a second to that?
I'll second it.
Second by Averill. Proceed to a roll call vote. Aye in the positive, nay in the negative. Averill.
Aye.
Aye.
Zorn, aye. Wakefield votes aye. Bills are approved. Office reports. Maddie, I got a question on the daily cash balance.
Yep.
So now you have 2022 balance up there in the far left-hand corner. That's the closing balance for the 2022 books?
Yep, that would be for October's. So October of 2022, that was their ending total for the month. So each month I put the 2022 balance for the month that we're on.
Oh, you,
Last
okay,
three
you're
months.
backing up a year, okay.
Yep.
Maybe for
Just
just,
kind of a comparison to see what it was last October to what we're at today.
right, so if you could, just put that in there, so 2022 October balance, so that we
Yep.
could have a comparison. Now, I know it now, but there's somebody else looking at it,
Right.
okay. Thank you. So we'll need a motion to approve the monthly office reports.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zorn to approve the monthly office reports. Second.
I'll second that.
Second by Averill. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Office reports accepted. Jamie,
You're looking at joint powers agreement, I'm guessing that one, that probably.
DSA mutual aid agreement.
Yeah, so it's a mutual aid agreement between us and Barnes County for emergency management. In case something happens, work together to try to help each other out, I guess that's as important as that. One of the reasons for this is if we do not have a mutual aid agreement, the feds don't, if there was a disaster, the feds come in and give us money, we wouldn't qualify for that money without that mutual aid agreement.
Mhm.
So I would just ask that you guys sign it, so that we would be eligible for any federal reimbursement if there is federal reimbursement. And so we can have cooperative work with other emergency managers if we need to ever have cooperative work with other emergency managers if something big happens in the area.
Is there any cost to us?
Not right now on this.
Oh, is it?
It is, no, not preliminarily.
I don't, maybe I'm missing something.
Keep going.
Huh?
Keep going.
Which way?
That's the sheriff's office.
Yeah?
Yep,
Keep going this way?
Yep. Yep. Right there would be the ending page.
Oh, there we go, it's in the back. Okay, I got it. Anything else we gotta know about this, Jamie? What's it obligate us to? What are we?
We're not obligated to anything. If we need their help, they'll come and help us, and if they need our help, we'll go and help them. I don't plan on adding any additional costs to the town.
You're okay with us signing this?
Yeah, I am.
We'll need a motion to that effect.
One question on it, and I think I understand this, but let's just say there was a disaster of some sort, maybe they came and helped us. There would be a charge for that, but there would be a reimbursement.
Right, in order to be reimbursed for it,
We have to.
we
sign.
have to,
Yep,
we have to have a mutual aid agreement in place.
yep, okay.
So actually, one thing that we, and the fire departments have refused to do this, but we should have one. So if there's a disaster, for instance, I believe Northwood tornado, I think that's probably the most recent close one, where other departments went and helped. If the feds come in, declare disaster, and pay for services to the local places, If there's no mutual aid agreement in place, they can't be reimbursed by the feds. It's gotta come out of local money if they send a bill over to the county or to the city or whatever. And I don't know why, I think it's kind of foolish, but in order to be reimbursed for that. So, like, if there's a big fire, a big wildfire, where we were to be reimbursed for, if Cooperstown and Binford and Hanford, if the fire departments don't have a mutual aid agreement in place, they can't be reimbursed by the feds at least.
But that won't affect us, as far as law.
No, that doesn't affect us, no.
So if you're so inclined, we'll need a motion to accept the mutual aid agreement as presented by State's Attorney Tennyson.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zorn to approve the mutual aid agreement. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Second by Abriel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Unanimous agreement.
Thank you.
Beer and liquor license.
So you guys approved a beer and liquor license at the last meeting. I had the wrong year date on it. I had 2023 when it should be 2024. So I have to redo it. And then he said, can we please switch the name? They are now switching it to the Sutton Sports Bar and Grill, not the Sutton Pub. So that's what the change is here. So
And that, I guess, does that correspond with the name they issued to the state?
correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So if everybody's fine with that, we'll need a motion to reissue the retail liquor and beer license to the Sutton Sports Bar and Grill. Fees will amount to $150 total for 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was done before, just a different name, so we'll need a motion to that effect.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Averill to accept the, to issue the retail liquor license and beer license to the Sutton Sports Bar and Grill. All in favor, signify, or second, please?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Liquor license issued. What's the delinquent property tax minimum bid?
So this is you only have one property that's on the auction for delinquent taxes. And so you have to, what's my word?
You have to set a minimum price for every sale. There has to be a minimum price.
Right.
And
Yep.
we're actually probably a little late in that because it's supposed to be sent, I think, 30 days before the sale.
I just have to have it in the paper for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And the minimum
far as-
price is the
Yeah,
dollar
taxes-
value of the taxes owed?
Taxes owing plus one more,
Plus last year.
estimated one more year.
Owed penalties plus one more year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay,
I'll look into that though if
I think
I'm,
it's 30 days prior to the sale. I think the prices have to be set.
okay. That's,
What property is it?
it is just a little,
Okay.
yeah, it's identified here, Tyrol Township in Jesse, lots 2 and block
Oh.
14.
Yep.
Okay. All in favor of, oh, how about a motion to accept the minimum bid?
I'll make that motion to accept the minimum bid.
A motion by Averill to accept the minimum bid. Do we have a second by Zorn?
I'll second that.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Minimum bid set. Sam, do we have the modifiers that are currently in place?
these are them.
You're right, do we have the percentages?
This is all I know of.
Okay.
This is what I
so-
brought to you in the previous years, so.
Okay, so this is a max of 50%. Okay. So these are the modifiers that can be applied to agricultural property in order to determine its assessed value. And they're using 10% increments, like I said, with a maximum of 50% of any combination. So say you had a parcel of property that was worth $100 and you applied 5 of these modifiers to it, a 10% deduction, you would reduce the value of that land by 50%. Or you could apply one of these at 50% to reduce the value, the taxable value, by 50%. But the most you could reduce the taxable value by would be the 50% and in increments of 10%. So you couldn't have an 8%. Irregular fields couldn't be 8%. It would have to be 10% or above on up to 50. This should be done on almost every acre of property in Griggs County. It hasn't been. When they valued the property, when they valued it at the production rather than value, they left all these modifiers at 100%. They left all the modifiers out, and it was the responsibility of each individual landowner via the assessor to determine valuations. So any land that hasn't been modified is probably assessed too high, because on our land here, there's every bit of land has got one of these problems with it. It's just never happened. No one's ever gone through, and some people do. There are some people who have done it, but not a lot. So all we're doing here is giving the people the opportunity to do that, and setting a value. The most you could reduce the value of any piece of property would be by 50%. And I believe that is the high limit. I don't think we can go any higher than that.
So when we give them the opportunity to do that, is that something that they have someone come in and actually do, or do they just have?
They would sit down with the assessor for their township. And the landowners always have the opportunity to do this. Not many people take advantage of it. But without us on a yearly basis accepting these modifiers, then they'd have to live with the prices, with the valuations they have. Under this system, they can say, well, this part of it's salty, and I have erosion here, and it's an irregular shaped field, so it's not worth as much money if it's square, and vice versa, and back and forth. And
Yeah, there was some of that was brought up when they were talking about the drain, or what,
Yeah.
the gal, they were talking, so yeah.
yeah. So we're
During tax equalization, that gentleman was in here and we told him to talk to his assessor about the modifiers and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So if you're okay with it, we'll need a motion to approve the modifiers.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zoran to approve the modifiers as presented.
I'll second that.
Second by Avriel. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Modifiers accepted. Anything on the old courthouse, new courthouse?
I got a call the other day, and a picture sent to me, when we had our snow that down at the social service office. There was snow covered and business was attended, and there was nothing had been shoveled. And she was wanting to know, and she says that, I don't understand what anyway, but there's no shovel down there. She doesn't know where their shovel went.
Where at?
At the social service office,
Oh,
down on the far end. I asked her, I said, would you be willing if, she just thought it needed to be done more than in the morning and at noon and in the evening, on a day that it snowed, she thought it could get slippery. And I said, well, I said, Brian works, and, I said, we can't afford to have somebody sit there all day and shovel. I actually asked her if she'd be willing to shovel and put down rock salt if it was there for her, and she said she would.
Okay.
So if that's all right with everybody, I guess.
Yeah, she's willing to do it. You just got too much about the shovel rock salt there.
She said she had a really nice shovel, but it disappeared, so. I don't know.
Okay.
I've had to start locking my shovels up at my rental places because they disappeared, and I get down there to take care of things and they're gone.
Anything else on old courthouse, new courthouse?
One last question on that, if, I know the question will be asked, is if there isn't a shovel, how does she go about getting a shovel?
I think there is a shovel. I think Brian just probably put it in one of the
Oh.
maintenance rooms and stuff like that for the
Okay.
summer and stuff like
Okay.
that. I'll talk to him first, and then
Okay.
if
sounds
there's
good.
not, I'll let you guys know.
Sounds good.
It's probably leaning against the snow blower. Old courthouse, new courthouse, anything else? We're running out of things to talk about. Sheriff Hook.
He was supposed to be here.
Okay.
Should we try calling him or not worry about it?
So, this brings us to a subject that will probably be on this agenda for now until the end of the year. Griggs County property value increases. I know it's causing problems for all the employees here. A lot of people calling, wondering, what's happening, wanting to blame it on somebody. It's the property values were raised by the state as a part of the equalization process. And to date, we haven't got notification of exactly what was raised, what was done, whether or not we have the ability to accept or not accept. I know the treasurer's office has been getting a lot of phone calls, I understand, and it's not her fault by any means, but it's requiring a lot of information to be supplied that it takes time to supply, the way I understand it, and some terminologies that aren't understood. So the one being a property card. A property card originally was just that. It was about a 5x9 card that the property name was on there. That there was a picture of it, the starting value, and then every year as property values went up and down, the card was filled out, and as it was added to, it described the whole taxation history of the piece of property. Well, the property card became, after we went to software, became part of Dakota programs. And so basically it's just a printout, the tax history printout of it. But people ask for the property card and it gets kind of confusing. There are still old property cards floating around that haven't been upgraded into the system or just were updated into the system and still reside somewhere. But it's just a name property card. It could be digital file now, it doesn't matter. They just want to know what they're being taxed for and at what value, and how has it progressed through the history of the value going up and down. So if you go over to the old courthouse, you can go into the one of the offices over there in the recorder's office, I believe. And it's a big file cabinet with little drawers like this that pull out, and that's where all the property cards were kept. Because of course it started back in the 1800s, where no one ever thought of computers, and probably no one should have. So
I think they were kept in the Vanguard software too when the county had it, and then the
Yep.
city took it over. So then I think
Yep.
some of them are stored on.
But
that.
but you still have all the information, because you between your two offices, you're the ones that levy the tax and send the tax statements out, and the fact that you type the property into the computer, it just upgrades the property card. The property card it's in name only. It's your file within the computer program, Dakota programs.
Because I thought it was the assessor that had the property card. So then it went to the assessor. They had the property cards, would come down to like Maddie to input them, the value that the assessor gave us, So we don't really know what was taxed or why it came up to that. It was the assessor that had that information. We just put that value in.
Like
Based
FAIR
on-
updates the
based on what
city
you guys
ones
do
right
right-
now.
Yeah,
So if anyone asks for a property card from the city, I always give them FARA's number, and she'll give them the updated version.
and that's correct, because they are the taxing entity, the
Mhm.
city is, and that's correct. And I know it's caused some problems,
Yeah.
people calling up, but
Yeah.
that's how it is. We have the information, and what the people are worried about is, what am I being taxed, what piece of property am I being taxed on,
Mhm.
what's the value of it, and why did this happen?
Mhm.
That's all we have to answer for them.
And I did send them some information the other day, and they, that Marlon Haugen assessor did call me back, and I asked him to call to see if that's back, and I haven't gotten an update yet.
And of course, understandably, with all the notices that have been sent out, people are upset, so they're not going to be real patient sometimes, and that's understandable. So the question has been asked, I imagine all you've got some phone calls over this. The question has been asked, what can the county do about this? The county commission. Short answer is not much. What happened here was the sales ratio study that was turned in without our approval and then found to be inaccurate. That set off a trigger at the state. Then we provided another sales ratio study that was reputable, and they looked at both of them and they said, which one? They knew which one. They knew which was the right one. So that triggered what the state has the right to do. I don't know why they're involved in property tax. They don't levy property tax. Why they're involved in it, I don't know. It's a question that should be answered in the court, in my opinion. But so what they did was they went in and they equalized the whole county, where in normal circumstances they just take the value of Griggs County and they equalize it amongst the other counties. So if Griggs County, they think it's low, then they'll raise it up. And here they went in really a deep dive in this thing, and they went township to township, and then they even went to the point that they went individual residences. And what it amounted to here is they came to the realization that Cooperstown was being taxed, the values were too high, they went back to 2018. That wasn't a surprise to me. We've been arguing about this for a lot longer than 18, that the values in Cooperstown were being pushed too high. So they lowered those, or didn't raise them as much as was proposed in either one of the sales ratio studies, but they raised, instead of just lowering Cooperstown's to match everybody else's, they raised everybody else's to match Cooperstown. So we resulted in Cooperstown having at sometimes a 40% decrease in some of the commercial properties, which were way overtaxed, and then commercial properties outside of Cooperstown being raised by 40% or more sometimes. The same thing with the residential properties. Most of the residential properties outside of Cooperstown now have been raised, and Cooperstown, I think, went up 2%. The net result, what we don't know yet, is whether or not the valuation is at 100% of valuation or if it's at 90. I assume it's at 100. And if you look back here on this handwritten, I haven't even looked at it real close, that Sam supplied to us. These are the valuations for the individual townships, the cities, and the other taxing districts.
For the 2022 and then now.
Right. So look at Broadview Township right off the start. Look at the look at the value increase in the property in Broadview Township. That's about a 70% increase. Go right on down the board. Romness didn't have much, but almost everything had huge increases here, which is going to amount now in a situation where the taxing entity, the school, the city, the county, is not up against the number of mills they can levy. This won't make a difference. So Griggs County, for instance, we're nowhere near our mill levy limit. So this will not, other than a couple of the different entities,
Road department and
yeah, that will make a difference because now the value of a mill is worth more, so more will be taxed. But in the instance of the schools, this is going to make a dramatic increase in taxes because they're right up against the number of mills they can tax, and now their mills, the value of their mill greatly increased. So if you look at Griggs County Central, the value of their mill went from 13,000 to 16,000.
and that is just within Griggs County. That's not adding in the other counties that
That's
make
right.
up that.
Yeah, you have to remember that the school districts are not isolated to any one county. We have part of the school districts in Griggs County, part of it in Steele, and part of it in Barnes.
Barnes, Steele, I think Eddie, or is that, I don't know, anyway.
Okay. So this is going to have a dramatic effect on every taxpayer in Griggs County. The exception on this is Cooperstown. Cooperstown was, as I said, we argued about it ongoing, that they were being overvalued, and the state agrees with that. They dropped Cooperstown's value by 15%. That's a combination of all the properties in Cooperstown. And Binford was also overtaxed.
I just want to make a note that you probably won't see much of a change this year with the taxes because this came out after the budgets were already supposed to be set. I was already supposed to get these in before I got these numbers, but it'll be next year that you'll probably see the increase for the
I
tax.
believe the school districts have the ability to go back in and open up their budgets.
Not after the 10th.
Not after the 10th?
Yep, the 10th,
Okay.
that's the deadline. But they are the only entity that can increase after the estimated tax statements are sent out. They, we're only able to decrease. The schools is the only entity that can increase after that point.
So the system's set up like it is for a purpose, because of course you don't want a taxing entity looking at and say, okay, I can extract X amount of dollars from the citizens. You don't want that to happen because the impulse is we'll just tax right to the limit and take it all and find a use for it. So you're supposed to tax in dollars, not by the number of mills you have. So that's why the state tries to withhold the value of a mill until after the budgets have been prepared. So you don't have the ability to say, okay, we can get $100. We're going to set our budget so that we get all of the 100. The way it's supposed to be done is our budget says we only need 90, and that's all we're going to take. But once you're up against, so the state set a limit on the number of mills for each entity. So the county has, for the general fund, they have a maximum amount of mills. The schools have a maximum amount of mills. Everybody has a maximum amount of mills. So in order to try to get around that, they try to hold off on their budgets and find out what the mill is going to be. And the other thing they do is try to artificially raise the cost of the mill. And that's what took place here. If you go back to page 22 in your and the superintendents went out to the August 4th, 8th meeting and tried to influence just that. So if you go to the biggest paragraph there in the middle of the page, it says Lieutenant Governor Miller introduced the fourth item of business and opened the floor for Derek Simonson, Griggs County School Superintendent. They were on the agenda for this meeting. This wasn't just showed up there. And we're still waiting now for the full minutes in order to flesh this out. But Mr. Simonson gave the board a report regarding the school budget and the struggles they are facing due to the lack of updating valuations throughout Griggs County. Mr. Simonson asked the board to step in and address the issue with the Griggs County Commission. Ryan Barron, Minnesota School District Superintendent, reported on the issues he sees due to the inequitable valuations across county lines. Mr. Barron continued, stating the issue is causing underfunding, which in turn impacts how much the school can offer for salaries and limiting the number of staff that could be retained for the school district. Commissioner Goring stated the school board should just submit their budget as they normally do. That was a reprimand. They shouldn't have been there asking for the state to raise values. They're supposed to submit their budget as the Century Code says, and the values get raised after that. Mr. Simon stated he was intending to submit his budget, but has concerns because we were maxing out the mills available. If they were further discussion was had, if they were maxing out the mills available, the Century Code holds a remedy for that. You go to the voters and you ask them specifically to allow you to levy more mills on a vote. And by levying more mills, no matter what the value of the mill is, it will give you more money, but it involves then the people that are taking the money from, the people that are being taxed, a say in how they're being taxed. This was an end run around how the Century Code is set up and how taxation is supposed to take place. So, back to the question of what do we do about this? Are we going to be allowed to approve or disapprove these valuations? We don't know that yet. In a normal circumstance, they would send us evaluations. They would say raise them to this level, and we would raise them to 90%. If you remember last year, no, you weren't here last year, but the year before last, there was a push by a couple of the commissioners to raise the values to 100%. It was the same thing. I met with the school, explained it to them. They disagreed, and this year they went around us by doing a sales ratio study without our approval. That's what kicked this thing off. But the impetus from it was the school trying to artificially inflate the values. So if they give us the ability to approve or disapprove the values, we can do just that as a board. We can approve or disapprove. If we disapprove, they will step in and they will, and again, this baffles me, they will instruct our auditor to overrule us and put the values in place. That's happened before. We've done this before. The other thing we could do at equalization is we could bring those values back down. We could say, okay, the county is unequal. These raises in valuation that were made last year are out of line, and bring it all back down again. Then it would be back in the state's hands to decide what they're going to do with that. Don't know what they'll do with that. Because their purpose is supposed to be to equalize. It isn't to set value. It's to equalize, because no matter, as long as every value is equal, it doesn't matter how much you tax or how little you tax, everybody's paying a fair share. But what they've done here is anything but equalization. They took from one and put to the other without regard for value. And remember, sales ratio study is only one component of determining value. There's 4 others. The state only recognizes one. The Century Code recognizes all 4. So what happened here was a successful attempt to manipulate valuation in order to bring in more tax dollars. And it was successful. It's been going on for quite a while in Cooperstown. It came to its head this year with the turning in of the sales ratio study that had no validity. Then the sales ratio study that countered that, and the state stepping in to try to figure out which one was right.
The second one we sent, how different was that from the first one that was sent in?
That's a very good question, because as you remember, we've never been able to have a look at we've only seen the end result of the first one, and there were glaring errors in there. There were categories of property added that didn't exist. Lakeshore property never existed. It was added in there. That doubled up. That property was also on the residential property, and then it doubled it. So that was one. Don't know. There's still more information to gather. The audio recording of the State Board of Equalization would be helpful, or a complete printed version of what was said. No, not this. This is just an abbreviated version like ours. The people in attendance out there would be helpful.
Of this meeting or the
Both.
October one?
Both.
Both, okay.
That would be very helpful to see what we're dealing with here. And then somehow we have to form and be able to explain to the citizens what happened and why it happened and how we intend to not let it happen again.
Right.
If that's our intent. That might not be the intent of the board. That's my intent. I don't know what the majority intent of the board is, but judging from the pushback on this, and it's just started, the citizens, the taxpayers aren't very happy about this.
The ones I've gotten aren't.
Even the ones that weren't punished as badly, like Cooperstown, they still went up 2%, I think, overall
2%, yep.
on the residential property.
Yep. So unless your property changed 10% or
it was, the threshold is 10% or over 3,000.
Yeah, that's correct.
So
You don't have any recourse.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they wouldn't have got a notice or anything.
So a lot of those people don't even know that something happened to their value because the letter wasn't sent out to them.
Yeah. So this has affected, of course, something we dealt with prior, CHS. I think I got a call from the manager there, and Steve Perry, and he said their valuation went up 40%. And some people might say, well, it's a big corporation and who cares? It's a big corporation that supplies and deals with a lot of citizens in Griggs County, and the only way they can pay that extra is to pay less for the product that they're buying, or pay more for the product they're selling. It's a direct effect on everybody when that happens. The end result of this is far more taxes being paid in Griggs County. For what purpose? Who benefited from this? And the answer is not nearly as many people that were harmed by it. So that's the information we have so far. How you deal with it on an individual basis as far as your constituents is up to you. But that's the facts as of they are now. And unfortunately, I think about all we have left right now for this year, if we're even given that chance, if it's even presented to us for approval, is the right to protest it or say no. Any questions?
Is there any chance that we would be able to see where the state came up with this? How they?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, let me rephrase that. We've gotten in fights with the state before over valuations. And when we've asked that question, they have given us the final figures. But we never got to see how they arrived at those numbers. We fought and fought and fought to get the formulas for the ag valuations with NDSU, and to the point where Ron was so persistent that one of the directors at NDSU resigned rather than give, and we never did get the formula.
That was two of the people that called me that was their question, is how did they arrive at this? Where did this?
So we will be able, I know we'll be able to see the final number, what the final number is. will we be able to get to see the work papers that got him to that point? I don't know that. That's something that we need to inquire as to what we need to inquire as to how did they arrive at the valuations. We need to see every piece of property that was looked at. We need to see every piece of property and the outcome of that inquiry.
Because, you know, if they're operating at 90%, or we're believing that they're at 100, but I mean, if they were at 90, well then, you know, what numbers did they use? I mean, if they went up this much at 90%. And that was the other question I was asked, and I didn't have the answer for, is this a 90% increase or 100?
That we don't know yet. They've always held that over. They've always held that over everybody's head. Is if they have to step in, we have the ability to lower the values to 90% of valuation. The state has always used the argument that if they have to step in, there would be a punitive raise in valuations to 100%. They've never done it to us because, of course, I don't even think that's legal to do that. You either do as they say, or we're going to raise the valuations. Well, that I think the reason it wasn't done is because it hasn't been done. It couldn't be done. What happened here, we don't know until we get. So there's an appeal process in all these, and until they settle the appeal process, the way I understand it, we won't get a final on what took place. Unless these numbers here are not final, are they?
Nope, they're final.
These are final.
That's what I'm using to do my levies.
Is there any way we can do math? No, you can't. I was gonna say, do it backwards to figure out what they did, but.
No, because these are the combination. If you
No,
look,
I should be getting some letters. I usually do by this time. I don't know why I haven't received them. I don't know if maybe they went to that Allen gentleman instead of myself. I'm not really sure, but
see, these valuations are the accumulation of all the property in each township and each city, correct?
mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's agricultural, residential, and commercial.
So that if you want to know what the value of a mill is, you would move the decimal point over. So a mill for Griggs County last year was 21,586.56. This year is going to be 25,204.10. So you just move the decimal point over. So Broadview, 1 mil will be worth $2,704.95. That makes sense.
See, if that is 100%, if we could drop it to 90%, it would take it down to 22,000 or 22,716, which would still be quite an increase. But I presume that's a 100% figure. So can you inquire, Sam, as to how they arrived at all these numbers?
Yes.
Can you also inquire as to, are these 100% values? And do we have the ability as a commission to drop those down to 90%? And if you agree with that, we'll need a motion to that effect, instructing Sam to inquire as to more specificity about what happened here. Because we can't answer to our constituents unless we have the actual facts.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Zorn to have the auditor request a more detailed scenario of the raise in valuations to include individual properties and whether or not these valuations are 100% of valuation or at what percentage they are, and if they are at 100%, do we have the ability to reduce them to the threshold of 90%? If not, why don't we have that ability? Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Second by Averill. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried.
actually, I should talk to you guys about, I was thinking about the property tax sale. There was some trouble up in Ramsey County last year that some of the people bid on the property and someone came in from out of state. It was kind of one of the situations that we had last year, where someone came in and saying that property, but that person came in and there was some bidding going on this property, and he made the allegation that those people weren't qualified bidders, and it caused a stink with Ramsey County because he said, well, they shouldn't even have been bidding on this property, and it was bid up on me. So up in Nelson County, and actually the form came from Ramsey County, but it's an affidavit that each bidder gets to state that they don't owe any delinquent taxes on their property, so they're qualified. And then it gets rid of that problem. So I think if there's someone that's gonna bid on it, I can bring the forms in to you guys for the next meeting before the election, but I think that's something that you guys should adopt as well. Also, the law allows for the counties to make this determination themselves if they should offer a contract for deed on that tax property. And again, that caused problems up in Ramsey County, so they just did away with the contract for deed situation. And as well as Ramsey County, or Nelson County, that's what we did there too, where you can't buy a contract for deed, and that's my recommendation to Griggs County too, is not to sell any of that property on a contract for deed, because it just caused problems.
And that faced us a while ago. We already said no to that
Okay.
on a previous tax sale a number of years ago. So my question is, does this Century Code specifically exclude somebody from bidding on
They
these
cannot-
properties if they
Yeah.
have a tax, if they're delinquent?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, it does exclude, it cannot be sold to anybody that has delinquent taxes.
within this
Within
county
the-
or within
within the state of
any,
North
in the
Dakota.
state of North Dakota? Okay.
So I think that is something that we should do. I can bring the form in, but I think that we should adopt that form as well, that everybody that's going to bid on property needs to fill out, in order for them to ensure that they're a qualified bidder and make sure that they're qualified to own the property. And it's an affidavit that's sworn under the laws, it's perjury for this, in the state of North Dakota. It isn't a problem until it's a problem, then it's a big problem.
Yeah. So we don't need a motion on that. We just need, when it's presented to us, we'll need to approve it.
Yeah.
Anything else on the property value increases?
No, I don't think.
Okay, so we'll make this an ongoing agenda item as we start adding more information to this, and if we can't fix it, the only way to address this is to try to explain what happened and why. That's the only way to do this. And that's gonna take a while, because from first look, what happened shouldn't have happened, and the question of why is really marginal, on why they were trying to increase valuations. I mean, outside of the normal way to do that. So that's all we have on that for now. Bob, what do you got for us?
Sorry I'm late, had to go on a call. Okay. First thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna introduce Mike Beaver.
Mhm.
He's a potential new employee for us, so I'm gonna be losing two.
Mhm.
And Mike would be a very qualified candidate to replace me when that time comes. Mike is from Binford. His grandfather was Kevin, grandma was Delly, born and raised in Binford. He's local. Like I talked to you at the last meeting, I think that's something we need to try and concentrate on going forward, you know. Mike and I were talking before the meeting, you know, they brought in chiefs and stuff up to Harvey, to the police department from all over the United States, and of course it doesn't work. They don't speak the language or drink the Kool-Aid, and it just doesn't work out. So I'll be updating you on the status of this for next meeting. I'll know for sure what their exit dates are for the other two, so.
So who do we have now? We've got 2.5?
As of right now, we have We have two. Shane's on his exit plan, burned up some vacation, he's gone. He's
Okay.
going high patrol.
Okay, so,
And Mike will not be employed until the one of the other two are gone, right?
yeah, I understand that.
So I expect one will be gone, Shane is gone, he's leaving. One of the other deputies I think will be leaving probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
So
We'll be
we,
down to myself and one deputy.
so we really need to put these two contracts on hold until we get,
Exactly.
until we can take care of
Jamie and I have been
ourselves.
talking about that.
I
We're just
mean-
talking about updating that.
Jeez.
But, I mean, we can have a contract, but I wouldn't be able to fulfill it. That's just reality.
Right, so we just need to put that on
Yeah.
hold, and so, the same thing with ordering the vehicle, we need to put that on hold until we have people to drive the vehicle.
Yeah.
I mean, it's in place, we can still do it.
Well, I'm gonna talk about the vehicle. You got a pretty golden chance right now to buy a new vehicle.
Yeah, I know, but if we don't have any way to drive, anyway, that's for, so.
But, you know, but the,
The
that's not my
contracts
best
gotta go
talk
on, the
about,
contracts have to go on hold,
so, Yeah,
because
I'm
we
just-
can't
well-
promise something we can't even
Right,
supply to
exactly.
ourselves.
exactly.
Okay,
At least all the information on the contracts you could at least save, and then when.
Yeah, we're still gonna update the contract so it's ready to go, but.
Okay.
Right.
And then I have another individual that I interviewed in Bismarck that's interested in coming here. He's married, his wife is a licensed professional that is looking to work here, so that would be a potential. So it wouldn't take long to get back to full staff.
Where do you live?
Yeah, right now, he's currently a deputy in Wells County.
Okay.
Got 10 years in, a lot of experience, good resume, and wants to move back to Griggs County. His family roots are here, so.
so what's your exit date, Bob?
Don't have her yet, John. I'm not gonna abandon all this. and
I
just
know,
leave.
I
So-
gotta ask, I mean, I don't want you to go, but I gotta
will.
ask.
I'll know, you'll know as soon as I know.
Hertz is
Like,
okay.
this guy, I gotta work through this with these guys. I didn't plan on leaving.
Well, I don't wanna know when I'm sitting across from you like this, Bob.
No. Well, I shouldn't tell you by yourself.
Well, send me a note or something,
Yeah.
waving goodbye.
Yeah. So that, I'll address that in a lot deeper level next meeting. That's all I can give you on that. I'll know all the dates, exact, everything will be in black and white by that time.
So the question remains, would it help to have the county send a letter to the state trying to get the schooling waived?
No, there's no waiver on it, it's black and white. I pulled some strings to get me this far, because the sheriff's statutes outweigh the administrative rules that the post board put in place. The sheriff's statute supersedes that, so I'm still within my bounds to keep working. But that date isn't just that, it's the other side of it too, for my personal stuff, so. So there again, I can have all that for you next meeting.
No, that's, as long as there's no remedy for it, it doesn't really matter what the
Yeah,
reason,
there
what
is really
the
no
reasons is, it doesn't matter if there's no remedy. If
The outgoing executive secretary of the post board, one of his last things he did, we talked, he said, "Man, you need to really do something here, because we ran a blind eye for this as long as we probably can," and I get that. At some point, I'd be putting myself in personal jeopardy of being charged,
Correct, yeah.
so I'm never gonna go there.
And the county and the state also, because they were allowing it to happen with, yeah, I got it,
so-
got it.
So, agenda items, what's next, Sam?
You have that,
That contract?
yes.
We just got a new jail contract in Stutsman County.
Yeah.
They raised it up to $100 a day per person. Other than that, it's duplicate of last year's. Just a number of a financial increase of 200. And I'm assuming Valley City will be raising theirs at some point. We have not got an update on that. I think the last contract we signed for them was for a couple of years, so that probably 2 years old on that increase. We have no say in this. It's just what we have to deal with. We don't have a jail, and we do have the jail. It's been relatively slow lately, thankfully.
So we'll need a motion to enter into the Stutsman County Combined Law Enforcement and Correction Center detention and incarceration contract.
And then the only question is who's gonna sign that. In history, I've signed them, but it's just gotta be by somebody from the county. That would be yourself, John, or me, I'm assuming.
I don't know anything about it. Signature of
I
neighboring
think you've
county?
done it in
Yeah,
the
I've done it
past.
past.
Yeah.
That $100 that they raised to, that is passed on to the criminal.
Well, not really, no.
It's not-
No, most time we pay it. The only time that a defendant or a suspect ever paid anything is they're like on a work release program, they pay X number of dollars. CP on work release other than that. And they pay that directly to the jail. That has nothing to do with us, so.
Okay.
No, that's a cost that we just have to bear for doing business. And we try to avoid that if possible. Try to come up with other alternative ways of doing things, but sometimes it's black and white, so.
Criminals don't pay, they take.
No, right? That's why they're criminals.
So I guess I always make the argument that jail's expensive and it sucks that we have to pay it. But you can't really quantify the amount of money that you save by having someone in jail or keeping someone safe. Some of that stuff isn't quantifiable, and that sounds like a political answer, but it's not. It's the truth. I mean, some people are just bad and need to be in jail, or we need to have people in jail so we need people to put people in jail so they don't continue to commit crimes and continue to cost the population money.
Or hurt others, you mean?
Or others, yeah.
I'll make that motion, John.
We have a motion by Zorn to allow Sheriff Hook to sign the policing contract, the Stutzman County contract for incarceration. Do I have a second to that?
I'll second it.
Second by Averill. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Sign away, Bob.
Okay. Next
Do you
one.
need this or do you have one?
I didn't have a chance to print one out. I just
Okay,
got
I got
walked
it.
in the door when I got back here.
I got it.
And then, this is something we sign every year, right?
I look at this one. Sometimes they're multi-year, like 2 or 3 years, so.
Okay. Just depends on when they change the cost
Yeah.
maybe or something like that.
Yep.
Then I have that policing contract, but if you guys are putting that
Yeah.
on hold, that is what it is. And then you wanted to talk about weather.
Oh, I was asked to bring up, I just wanna know what the county's policy is gonna be going forward this year. We have all these road closings and no travel. And with the courthouse being open, it makes a temptation for people to come here and show up here. Last year, we had no snow removal during those events. You couldn't get in the courthouse. We couldn't get into the courthouse with our cars. So I got two things. Do you guys have any plans to make something more official with that? And two, is there a potential of getting a snow removal contractor? Like right now, the back of the courthouse it's full of snow. I mean, it's melted, it's helped us, but it's full of snow. And it gets packed down, and last year I moved snow with that little snow blower, probably in 4 events. I'm not doing that this year. Or no one else is either. It's not realistic. You know, and I get it, you know, the road department does it, and they do it when they do it the best they can. But it's always after everything else is done. Well, that doesn't really bode well for the courthouse to be open. And I tell you right now, workforce safety isn't impressed with some of that. I know that. Because I've dealt with it in my civilian side.
Is that something we could talk to Wayne about then, probably?
We just need, I mean, we have the way to do it. We just need to prioritize the removal.
That's
Yeah.
what I mean, talk to Wayne.
Yeah.
That'd be Brian.
Oh, Brian?
I mean,
Okay.
there's 7, 8 people. One of them can come up here and do the courthouse. I mean, it
Yeah.
can be argued the courthouse is as important as everything else in Griggs County, and we could have one person working on that. It doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be last.
You know, last year, several times, they had to work in coordination with the city to get some of the stuff done in the street. There was so much snow in some of those events, but.
Yeah.
And I guess, so my concern is, you know, we had employees trying to get to the courthouse during no travel advice times, and it just, one more thing, we're trying to keep people at home during those things and off the highway, and then we've got the potentials there, people, I had one individual call me in the middle of the storm, and goes, "Oh, the courthouse will be open tomorrow?" I said, "Well, it doesn't close," but I said, "Your chance of getting here is 0, I don't know how, we don't want you on the road."
Mhm.
For me, it's all about safety. I'm not here to talk about, who's taking vacation, who's working extra hours, that's not my fight. But the potential and the temptation to be on the road to get here, to save a day of vacation stuff seems a little lopsided, in my view. We spent many nights last year, 17, 18 hours out on the highway getting people out of the ditches and off the roads. it's nice to avoid that if at all possible, so. I just, if you guys gotta talk about that, I'd like to see something official there so people know if they should be on the road or they need to go on the road.
Hard to get anybody to stay home. Nobody wants to.
Well,
You got the ones that'll go out there and it could be zero visibility, they'll go out no matter what, but
Yeah.
you also got the ones that one flake hits the ground, they don't go anywhere.
exactly, I live that world, so I get it all.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if in the event where there's zero travel advised and it's snowing and it had just finished snowing, we have a chance to clean the streets and roads, I personally think it's not prudent to have the courthouse open until it's safe to get here. And you know, I don't know if people, we expect people to snowshoe across the community to get to work to the courthouse. I don't really see the validity in that. I'm not in charge of that, so. That, and last year I got a lot of calls about that. It wasn't just here, it was about everything in town. Well, that's not my area.
Right.
I just don't want people driving,
No,
period.
it's understandable, cause then it also, not only puts them at risk, it also puts you guys at risk too.
Right.
The deal on snow removal with Brian, now is Brian, when he moves snow up here, is he doing that on his own or is he contracted through, I mean, is he working for the county when he does that or how is that?
Yep. So he does it as the maintenance custodian, and then I know that the road department helps afterwards or whatever. So he'll come up and shovel the sidewalks and stuff like that, and then the road department would come in with the maintainer and stuff to do it.
We have plenty of paid positions to do it, we just need to instruct somebody to do it.
Right, right.
Okay?
Was there anything else you had said? Okay, the last thing I had, you guys instructed me to get some numbers on the vehicle. Stopped down at Christian Motors. They've got a 2023 Dodge pickup. It's like one step above the work truck level. Normally a $60,000 pickup. Right now they're on a Chrysler wide or Ram wide clearance. And that truck with a new tonneau cover on it would go for $51,000. Everything else is that or above, up into the 60s. I know the neighboring county, they paid like $70,000 for theirs. So
That's brand new.
brand new. Yeah. They had a used one in Finley. I looked at. It was a $900 difference. It's got 12,000 miles. It doesn't make much sense.
No, and we get the same warranties and everything, right?
What's that?
So we all get the same warranties, even though I know we're a public dealer still.
Oh yeah, there's no differentiation on that. That was challenged years ago and done away with.
Is it Dodge half ton?
Yeah, it's half ton. Regular four-door, not the small four-door. So a lot of the equipment on the current Dodge would fit in there. So. How long that sale's on, don't know. It just came down. So if you need to buy a new pickup, it'd be a good time right now. And irregardless what happens in the next month here with staffing, that vehicle is needed because we're gonna be, the county's gonna be at full staff very shortly. And that, the two are related, but they're unrelated in a certain way because no matter what happens, we're still in need of the pickup. So,
But I mean, so we're gonna have to hire 3 people here in order to,
potentially, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it seems to be a nationwide issue.
absolutely. So,
But your budget's set, so there's no, I mean, you're not gonna increase anything there.
no, the budget set, the pickup was dependent on the part of the money coming from this city contract, the $30,000.
And the only thing I'm gonna say about that, John, when I was here in that meeting, that was not the case. I went back and listened to that meeting, that was not the case.
That, it wasn't, Bob, but that was the final
Right.
final decision made by the commissioners. And so it doesn't matter, everything's
But-
supposed to be discussed.
I understand that, John, but no, look at this from my side of the fence, okay? My law enforcement equipment is gonna hinge on someone doing a contract with the county. If that contract doesn't go through, that does not alleviate the need of the sheriff's office. One bit, it just doesn't change it.
I didn't say it did, Bob, but
Well, you
we're
said
sitting
it
right now.
today, and you said it before.
Well,
If
right
we
now
don't
we're
do the
gonna have,
contract,
we
there's
got,
no revenue for a pickup. That's
we've
not
got-
gonna change anything.
we've got 2 possibly people to drive 3 cars in. We don't even have full staff in the sheriff's department. What do we need another vehicle until we're sure we have a full staff? That's
You
the
wanna buy
point.
it then? When it's more money? We've been down this one more than once. I've had solutions for this since I've been here, and it's gone up 10,000 every time we make a decision. It's gone up 10. Now I'm above 30,000 above a resource I had earlier that we couldn't even talk about in meeting because it's something for next budget.
Bob, we budgeted accordingly by the facts we had in place. Now the facts have changed. The outcome has to change.
What facts have changed?
We don't have the $30,000 from the
Exactly.
prison contract.
And you just told me that wasn't tied to that. Now you're telling me it is tied to that. So is it?
It is tied to it, of course it is. That was the purpose, that's why they proposed it.
Why would an entity like Griggs County Commission put that pickup on a wish list? So we're gonna wish we get the money and hope we get it to buy the sheriff equipment. And if we don't, I guess the sheriff is just screwed. He's gonna have to drive that pickup for another year. How does that make any sense for our taxpayers?
Bob,
My
you'll
taxpayers
have to-
don't think this is
you'll-
right.
You'll have to ask the people that proposed it. I didn't propose it. So you'll have to ask the people that
Last
proposed it
meeting, I
what
was
their
told to get
thinking
prices,
was.
and last meeting, you told me to go buy a pickup. You told me to get numbers for the
Get
pickup.
numbers. And last meeting, you didn't tell us that you're losing 2 deputies.
Yes, I did.
And that you're.
I've told you 3 meetings in a row. I said, I don't know
What's the
when.
date? Well,
I don't know when they're leaving, John.
so let's wait and see what we have and
Okay.
then equip
fine.
them accordingly.
That's fine.
That's all we can do is equip the
That's
people
fine.
that we have here.
I don't know of a sheriff's office in the world that I know that's ever has budgeted their equipment based on a potential something. Who does business like that? Who does business saying,
Why are you griping to me about this? I had nothing to do with it.
well, let's fix it. Let's fix it here today. Let's
We
fix
can't
it.
fix it until the next budget cycle.
Really?
Really?
Well, then buy the thing because you've got the money in the budget.
No, we don't.
Well, then you can't buy it.
If we get the policing contract, we had the money in the budget. You have to talk to the people that proposed this.
there's
They're blaming
people
things on me I had nothing to do
There's
with.
people sitting here that can comment on this aren't saying nothing.
Well, then quit yelling at me about it.
I'm not yelling at you, John.
God dang it. I didn't have nothing to do with it.
I am saying-
It was voted on 5-0 to do it this way, and you come in here and complain and complain and complain. You weren't even sitting here when it happened. Now, cut it out.
And why was that?
I don't know, because you're on
Because you said my
vacation here or
budget
somewhere. I don't
conversation
know.
was
I don't know, Bob.
Okay.
But you can't complain about something when it's already said and done, and the facts change now. We said last meeting, when we get this police contract signed, go ahead and get the pickup. Now we can't get the police contract signed because we don't have people to fulfill it. So it goes hand in hand that we can't have the pickup then. So what are we to do, Bobby?
Okay, so when I get 3 people, then when we are full staffed, is the need gone because we don't have a police contract?
What's that?
When we're up to full staff here shortly, when that day comes,
Again, you have to ask the people that proposed this. We were under the
I'm asking, but no
we
one's
were
saying
under the
anything.
impression that the person in charge of the sheriff's department, the county commissioner who proposed this, had talked it over with you. That's how
that
it's
happened.
supposed to work. He was supposed to bring forward. He brought it forward. We took his word for it, and come to find out, he hadn't talked to you about it. I can't do nothing about that.
Okay, I'll leave it at that today, but I would encourage you guys to listen to the minutes of that last meeting because I did. And what you're saying today is different than what you said last meeting, John.
Because the circumstances are different.
No.
We don't have a policing contract
I
now.
understand that, John. Listen to your minutes.
We don't have a policing contract now.
Listen to your minutes.
Bob, I don't have to listen to him. I know what was said.
Listen to your minutes, John.
Yeah.
Listen to your minutes, and then if you think it's different with our listen minutes, call me and we'll talk about it.
I don't have to call you. I know it's different. We don't have the
I'm just saying,
$30,000
listen
coming
to your
in,
minutes.
Bob.
The whole thing changed last meeting. The conversation changed. The conversation changed.
Because the policing contract was signed by the city and we were gonna work it out and there was gonna be income coming in.
We
That
talked-
was the premise. Now we come to today and the policing contract is on hold, thusly the $30,000 is on hold, and now we don't have the other monies to fulfill the car. That's the
We
straight and
talked
simple of it.
about the policing contract last meeting first. We were gonna make changes to that. That was gonna be presented to the city this Monday night. After that conversation, I was told to get numbers, we can buy a truck. And I encourage you again, listen to the minutes, what was said in the open meeting, and tell me that I'm wrong for what I'm saying
You're
today.
wrong.
Okay?
You're dead wrong. We
Okay.
have to have the money.
Okay.
The money was allocated to.
I will take money out of my own pocket and transcribe that meeting,
Bob,
and you'll have it.
the money was allocated by that contract in order to buy the vehicle. That's straight and simple, the budget, it's right straightforward.
Yep.
If we don't have the money, we can't buy the vehicle.
Right.
When we get the money, we can buy the vehicle.
Well, that's fine.
Well, how else do you want to change it?
We're not, John.
I mean, you come and complain, how do we change it? Where do we come with the money for it? A
I'm not
solution was
complaining, John.
a solution was proposed, and then the solution didn't follow through.
The solution hasn't been stopped yet. We're stopping the solution today. There has been no change in that solution until today. And it's a brief solution change. The contract is a brief stoppage.
Bob, you just said we're going
Right.
to stop the contract.
I know,
The first thing you said when
agree
we
with
sat
you, but that
down.
changed today. That didn't have nothing to do with last meeting.
So that changed today, so right now, we don't have the
All
money to
I'm
do
saying
it.
is listen to your minutes of last meeting because I did before I came here.
All right, enough.
Anyway, so
I will add that, I don't, that is what I remember, because it was discussed thoroughly about, because we went back to the original vote,
Right.
you know, to how it happened, and how Trammy brought it, and, you know, that was all discussed.
in that meeting, I was asked, you didn't order a pickup?
But.
I was asked that in the last meeting. I was asked that
Yes,
question
but what I remember,
directly.
and I don't remember.
And I said,
but
well-
what I remember was that the vehicle, you said there was no money for a vehicle, and they said, no, there is if we have the contract.
Yeah.
That, you know, and I'm not, that's what I remember, is that we're
Yeah,
gonna take the money from the
that's fine.
contract
We'll end this right here.
to,
Yeah.
but, it's not that I don't agree that you need a vehicle, but we have to have the funds to pay for it.
Yeah.
And I agree, that's what was agreed to last time. We were under the assumption the contract was going through, all we had to do was sit down and modify it. Now we don't have a contract, so now we don't have the $30,000. Now we don't have the $50,000.
And let's get to the bottom, or, you know, if we can, I mean, it's not like we're not saying to do it. I mean, if we can get somebody so we can fill that contract, we'll have the money,
Yep.
and
That is in the minutes. It says that we're gonna move forward when the contract is fulfilled.
Yep.
That is in the minute. In fact, Stephanie made a point of that over and over and over again, and we agreed to it.
So Jamie and I will finish that contract, so it's all completed and ready for acceptance by both parties as was wished to be changed. We'll have that laying there, so that day comes, we will get that signed.
That's what I thought the day was gonna be today. Now,
Yep.
it isn't today. That didn't happen, so the plans we made.
The city can't sign
accordingly-
until their first meeting in November. That's the only first chance they've had. They only meet once a month.
But we can't sign it unless we can deliver on it.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying, there's no way of signing that until November
Right.
anyway for city.
And when that payment stream starts, then the vehicle payment stream starts. We've got the half of it over on the 2024 budget, correct?
We
35,000?
got like 35,000, and then we were gonna wait till the following year was this discussion. We were gonna put another, depending on what the budget was, another 25 to 35 away for a new vehicle for you. But then the contract came in. We're like, well, we got an extra 30 here. Let's put that towards a new vehicle so we can get him one right away. That's what my understanding was.
Yep. That was mine too.
yeah, because we were talking originally, you know, too, about ordering one,
Yeah.
and then we
And
said that we'd have. the
I know you
contract.
said it would be months out just to order one, and I understand that too. But now,
you know,
like,
now you've got one right here that you
Yeah.
can buy.
and I understand that too. It's like we got one right here. This is the cost. It's way cheaper. We should jump on it now. Well, right now, since the contract is signed, we don't have the full amount.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, Sam? All right.
So we don't need to give any approval to hire,
No, I do all the
you
hiring.
do all the hiring. So can you give us an estimate of what's happening going forward? I mean, just,
That'll be next meeting.
okay,
It won't be an estimate, it'll be black and white.
okay.
And if I have information beforehand, I will reach out to you guys and let you know what's going on.
What do you think as far as this contract with the school so we can fulfill on this? Yeah.
Well, the school contract is almost a moot point because we haven't had not even one interest in the opening for it. There's counties around us that have had them open for 8, 9, 10, 12 months and they don't even get a contact. It's just the way it is. We're in that kind of world right now in law enforcement.
So, can the schools reach out and do it on their own?
No, they don't have any. The school resource officer in North Dakota has to be a certified law enforcement
Oh,
officer.
so they don't have the ability to?
They could hire a security guard on their own if they wanted to, but they won't have any. There's no powers, and it's handled completely different.
So
The school resource officer is a black and white thing in North Dakota.
Right, and it has to be managed under a city, the police department, or a county, the police department.
Yep. Most of the large cities like Fargo, Moorhead, Bismarck, Grand Forks, they have their own resource officers. And then Cass County Sheriff has resource officers. There's some smaller counties that have resource officers.
So the other thing that I had on the city, how are we going to prosecute any violations that come through there when the city has to have a contract with the Southeastern District, correct?
We do. I found out, I think it was, you sent it to me, is it 2019
I
or
think
signed
we
or
signed in
2018?
2019.
The city has a contract with them?
Yeah, I gave
So,
Jimmy a copy of
Yeah,
that.
we have a contract. We have a prosecution agreement between the county and the city and district court. So we all would have had to sign it. I didn't recall.
That
I'll
was-
ask Kelly about it, but-
That's for city ordinance issues.
Yeah.
Right, that was the hang-up before, is city ordinances there was no way to you could
Right.
charge them, but there was no way to
Yeah,
prosecute
and
them.
I mean, the vast majority of what we do, it's under state law. There's nothing we did under city ordinances other than some dog calls, and we serve papers for them and those kind of things. We patrol just to keep the peace and dignity, hopefully, to some level.
So any speeding ordinance or city speed limit, that's all falls under state law. It could be brought in under city ordinance, but that all falls under state law. Misdemeanors, felonies, that's all under state law. Really the biggest thing that a policing contract, or not a policing contract, well, that too, I guess, but the prosecution agreement does is if there's any violation of city ordinance, and I would venture to guess 99% of that is the dog calls.
Most of those we just handled and gingerly, and they went away. Nobody wants to deal with it.
In that contract, it broke down the percentages between what the county and the city would share for the cost or any reimbursement of that contract for those
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah, I think it's like 75 to, the state of course comes out on top, I think it's 75 to the state.
No, it
25
was
to
just
the
between
county.
the county and the city.
Okay,
Yeah, I think it was 60/40, or maybe it was 50/50. I could get a copy of it, but that's broken down in that.
No, it doesn't, I just, that
the
was,
prosecution agreement
that
is
was
there.
one of the problems before when they were trying to do that, was they didn't have any way to deal with that.
On the practical side of the policing contract, I'll say this, I'm about it for now. This end of it seems big and whatever. On the performance side of it, our physical side of it, it's a seamless transition. It just, we dedicate a little more time and effort to the city when possible. As far as our work stuff goes, it's almost seamless.
Right. I guess the questions were the same, I mean, the valuation, what do they get for the $30,000?
Yeah.
And
Are you asking that or city asking?
well, I guess we have to ask that, I guess. Is that below the cost of what it costs to county? Is the dollar value below what we pay in order to provide those services?
No, I wouldn't say that, because we're gonna do away with, I had the shifts and the hours listed in there. That was an oversight on my part. I shouldn't have done that, because they're not paying for any dedicated hours and shifts.
Right, so there's 775 hours annually we're not gonna be held to that.
No, then we're doing away with that.
Okay.
That was one of the questions you guys had made with the contract, was do away with that wording. That, and what was the other one? Oh, the monthly payment thing, or the invoicing.
No, that was on the, yeah.
Well, they're both
That was
the
on the,
same.
that was on the school where
Yeah.
we can't, but no, the other one was the board to oversee this. It can't be,
Oh, there you go.
yeah. But the hourly thing was the biggest, because when
Yeah,
you
now
divide,
we're
when you
doing like
divided
that.
that out, if we provided 775 hours, that was over a half-time position, and it certainly wasn't paying.
Yeah, the intentions of that were not to even say it that way, just that's the way I wrote it, not, completely not thinking about that direction.
So we weren't going to sit down with the city and discuss
Yes,
this?
after the fact, the performance part of the city is between the city and myself.
No, I mean the contract itself. I think we left it last time that we were gonna try to meet with the city council.
Yeah, Jay and I we're gonna go through it, and I was gonna present it to him at their meeting Monday night.
Yeah, I guess time isn't really of the essence here when
No.
there's no,
It's not,
so it can come back to the county commission, they can look at it and see if there's any changes needed.
yes, it doesn't take effect on the first year anyway, so.
So if we have Mr. Beaver and one other person here in 2 months, we're way understaffed.
One position, we only have two
Yeah,
regular.
no,
deputies.
I mean to try to fulfill these contracts.
Well, the city contract, those hours would be put in by the deputy on duty for that
Okay,
shift. It's
okay.
not, we're not gonna have a separate officer to take care of the city.
Okay,
And if we had a school resource officer in place, the time that individual is not being paid for and working at the school would be available to do other duties in the county for the rest of the year, and we would work just on them hours into that person's schedule. But this is gonna be worked into everybody's schedule, probably even the sheriff.
Just get all kind of rotated into
Yeah.
that shift.
Will the city give us the money on this contract without somebody for the school?
Yes, I made that very clear to them, that there was a shoestring length connection there, but the two don't drive each other.
Okay, okay. You guys would just be there to take a call and go up to the school and then,
Serve their papers,
yeah.
you know,
So basically.
just help the city be a little more.
So realistically, we could have this contract done and that money would come.
Yes.
the city part, yeah.
And what would that amount be then? Would there be any lack of funds from?
No, it's 30,000 cut and dry. They're fully aware of what they're paying for. They're not paying for a full-time officer. They made that very clear to them.
Okay.
They just want someone in town more is what they want,
Yeah.
correct?
And that is revenue that was not put in the next year's budget.
Okay,
So that would be over and above.
okay.
The 50,000 for the resource officer was put in next year's budget, contingent on that contract going through and then hiring another officer. That would be the fourth officer. So from a strictly logistical standpoint, wouldn't it make more sense to have the city and the school go together and hire one officer between them to fulfill those
Potentially.
duties?
Potentially. That's not my conversation, I guess.
Yeah. If there's gonna be.
It would cost the city a hell of a lot more money to run a full department than it's ever gonna cost a contractor, I'll tell you that. Just the salary and benefits alone will far exceed what they've ever given us.
Yeah, I think last time we had the contract, it was 75,000, 80,000.
I'd have to look. One of them was 46.
Yeah, they dropped it down at one time. I think originally it was. Yeah, I
That
think-
was to have a full-time city officer or what?
Yeah, there was some cops money in there too back in the day that was involved in some of that. That's when Henderson was here. I'd have to go back and look at that. It's been a long time. They're in some dusty drawers someplace by now.
It was still in place, I think, that in. Yeah, I think it was still in place like in 2012 or 11.
Something like that, yeah. Then by the time I had retired, That had been gone.
Is there any way we can still send the lease to city and still rotate some shifts in, or no?
Well, we're here anyway, that's what I'm trying to say, I guess. Whether there's myself and two, or Mike and two, or Mike and three others, I don't, the city contract wasn't hinged on any staffing level. And they're not asking for a dedicated officer to sit in Cooperstown 8 hours a shift or something. That's not what they're getting, and I was very realistic with that in our conversations. They just want somebody that they can work with and say, hey, can you guys check this out for a week or something? When you can, this is going on.
Or just, hey, something's going on here, you want to come to
Right.
town for a little while?
And they say, like, we've got Cooper days, can you help out, which we do anyway, and anything extra to Cooper days is paid for by private entities. Or public groups, whatever, the extra dance costs and those things are paid by others, come out of our coffers. Just like the Binford Rodeo and, so I guess if that's it, then I'm out of here. For the day.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we can't make a decision until we know where we're gonna be with employees. I mean, who do we have to?
There'll be people here working that
I understand
that will
that.
cover the city's interest without any issue. That's, what they're asking for is so minimal, expecting, so.
Yeah. I mean, if we can get to.
And especially I'm sure if we're a little understaffed, like, hey, we're gonna just not be as available, but we'll try and take your calls and everything.
Yeah, see, that's the point I'm trying to make. No matter what happens with the school and the staffing changes, we still will be here. Somebody's gonna be here performing our duties for every hour of the day. Somebody's gonna be responsible for every minute on the clock. So they're not gonna miss out on anything. That's all I'm trying to say.
If we can get fully staffed.
Yeah. Well, without fully staffed, we still have to be here every other day.
Yeah, that's
And respond to anything. So, that never changes, no matter what the situation is. It's 365 days a year from round the clock.
So,
That's what we cover.
so what would happen? What would happen if we can't find? So what happens if we're just down to one or nobody? I
Well-
mean, I'm sure that's happened somewhere, but
Yeah,
what?
it
what
does. It's gonna happen in a couple of counties here very soon. They'll be down to a sheriff.
Right. So what happens?
They're begging and trying. Their neighboring counties or deputies and whatever police officers are coming working part-time until they get someone to fill in shifts. I think I mentioned you guys about 2 months ago, I said we're heading for a crisis
Oh,
in this
there's-
situation, and we are.
Nationwide, it is.
Yep. It isn't just Griggs County,
No,
it's
it's
statewide.
Yeah, it's state. Well,
Where
I'm
Mike
sure just
comes
not
from,
the
they-
state. I'm
So is
sure
there- is there
it's across the whole United States too, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's just not our state.
The highway
it's all-
patrols is even on their knees begging for people to come and apply.
well,
It's
they
just
lowered
not-
they lowered
that's
their
where we're at.
standards. They did a lot of different things
Yes.
in order to get people.
Things that they would never have done, ever in the whole, unimaginable.
Yeah.
They've passed over so many good officers over the years because they want to do it their way.
Yeah.
Now they're begging them same officers to come back and help them do it their way. So it's,
So is there a provision to National Guard? I mean,
no,
is
can't use National Guard,
Cause that's federal, right?
can't use
That's
your military against your own
only
citizens.
only in the event of emergency?
Yeah, and it's only for, they can't do any police action in the United States. You can have National Guards working as deputies, but you can't have a National Guardsman performing National Guard duties, doing police actions against their own citizens. It's just not, doesn't work that way.
Unless you're in Washington D.C.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a different world, Jeff.
Thank God.
Cesspool.
So, because it's possible that we could be in that situation.
Well, when the day comes, Mike makes the transition, Wells County's gonna have a sheriff. They've been trying to hire, for 2 years? Or a year for a deputy?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
been.
The Harvey Police Department's all gone.
Yeah,
They all
almost-
left.
Almost 10 months trying to hire a deputy.
Oh, geez.
4 applicants in 10 months.
And we leave all but one you can throw away. If you get a deputy sheriff or a police officer wanting to come to Griggs County or Wells County or any county in North Dakota,
Oh, I
you know damn well there's a problem. You don't want them here. There's something's wrong with their background or their performance or something. So,
So, yeah, so this is gonna be then an ongoing problem.
I could deputize you guys.
I don't think my wife is gonna like that. I work long enough hours and a lot as it is, and then I'm sitting there running around a police car. She's like, "You're working again?"
So anybody that works for us has to be trained within what time period?
1 year. 1 year or the next available academy, unless you can get a waiver, which I did 3 times. In the past, we've done that because, it's gotta work for us too. So, usually they'll give you 1 waiver, cause they figure that's enough time or you can plan something out then, cause you're probably looking at 6 months.
I mean, these are extraordinary circumstances here that were
There's no-
never been dealt with before in the state.
No. And that's one of the conversations the sheriffs have been having, because we're gonna get a long ways down the weeds here, but anyway, the highway patrol runs academy,
Oh,
and there's a lot of sheriff's departments and sheriffs and police chiefs wish it was run a little differently. It's very heavy traffic related and those kind of things, and I've always complained all through my whole career with involvement with all that training, as there are a lot of things we need to teach these young officers and old officers, how they gotta do their duties in rural America. It isn't all about SWAT and traffic stops. There's a lot of things that we do that are not very fun, like death notices and all those kind of things,
Yeah.
civil process. So yeah, I don't know what they're all gonna lead, but yeah,
So-
the things have changed in Bismarck.
so that's kind of a contradiction, that the Highway Patrol runs academy, so they don't want, they wanna maintain control because they want the first pick of everybody.
Yeah, and historically, the people that I'm gonna send to academy, a lot of them would never even had a chance to even go into the highway patrol, because they seem to like to get it from out of state. That's kind of been their thing lately. And that they
College
think-
college educated for a while.
Yeah, and there's a lot of law enforcement officers in North Dakota that are college educated, but they didn't in the past. They just wanted these young, fresh,
Yeah, yeah.
never experienced.
Yeah.
Now they've changed that 180 degrees.
Hmm.
And that's one of the complaints we had recently. We said, well, you guys are altering your academy and your status
Why
because you're
can't we,
hurt back,
why can't we?
but
do
you don't
ours?
allow us to change our status. Well, we don't control that. We just control the academy with our staff. So it's a conundrum.
And there's no political solution to it, you think?
Well, there probably is. It's not going to affect us now. There would be maybe in the future. It's all different, John. I'm telling you, it's just all different. A lot of people just don't even want to get involved. They just don't want. I talked to probably a dozen young people in the county that I thought would have been very good candidates to get involved, and same thing. Just don't want to get involved now.
Well, it's kind of that way with everything.
Yep.
There's nobody that.
A lot of people are
My thinking is I don't know why there can't be pressure applied to allow. To waive the academy. That's what baffles me.
Yeah, that baffles a lot of people, because I'm not the first person been involved.
No, of
in
course
this
not.
By far, by no means. There's a lot of people that have allergies to work.
Okay.
Well, unless you're sitting around making YouTube videos or TikTok videos, they don't care to
I've never seen, and I have nothing against anybody with a tattoo, but I've never seen a highway patrolman with a tattoo, that's full sleeve, what I did the other day out by Bismarck.
That's just a brand new thing. They had to start rolling back pieces of the onion to get people to stick around or apply.
Yeah, and like I said, there's nothing wrong with it, but that was something you'd never seen on a patrolman.
They now actually have shirts that don't have brass buttons.
Mhm.
Just those kind of things. They're just changing.
Yeah.
So someone must have gotten pulled over.
No, it was a DOT check out there by the rest of
Sure.
Well, Bob,
Flying
maybe you'll
colors.
have better news for us next week.
Oh, I will.
All right.
I'm not sure it's better for her, but I'll have better news.
And Monday, you said you're gonna do the city contract?
Yep.
Jamie, you're gonna be involved in that?
Yeah, Mercer and Hammer out the contracts, change those two things. I'll just tell them about it, probably. I gotta load some stuff up, so.
Let's do it after
Okay.
the meeting.
Nice meeting you all.
Yep, thank you.
Yep,
You'll see him again.
yeah. Anything else on Sheriff Hook's office?
You know, this is a question I have, and I don't know if this is something we can do at this level or not. Just on the highway 200 out there, with, you know, and they're patrolling. I see them guys out. I do. Is there any way that the county would ever put up like flashing signs of your speed when you go through? Like, I see them all the time. But with that new hospital there, and I'm outside doing yard work. I mean, there are people rolling through there.
I don't know about coming through Cooper, but I know since that's a state road, isn't the state?
I don't know. Like I
You
said,
can-
I don't know.
You
That is
can
highway.
request it, but the DOT makes the rules.
Okay.
Correct, I just called, because we had a complaint to try and find out from the DOT. Well, first I called the state shop here and they said to get a hold of the DOT. And so I got a hold of the DOT and they have to do an assessment themselves
Okay.
to determine whether or not a flashing, whatever. So the hospital sign that was pretty much next to your road by McCardle's,
Mm-hmm.
that was also up at the same time. So when this lady came in to say, hey, we went to the hospital and the hospital had moved, didn't realize that, whatever, the DOT did say they would take down that hospital sign. I guess I haven't looked to see if they did,
Oh, sure.
but because it was pointed towards.
Yep.
Yep. So, but they said the DOT has to do an assessment
Okay.
because the lady was saying her loved one walks across the street, it's in his care plan, he can walk across the street to go over to the Dollar General, but they were wondering if they could flashing sign or a crosswalk or something could go up, and the DOT has to do the assessment themselves.
I'd be scared to walk across there. You know, they come, but anyway, no. It's just something I just see, you know, like I agree that it is a state road and it should be, but, you know, but, yeah, there's just, I'm just afraid there's gonna be an accident of some, there at some point. So, take Bob's old pickup and we'll park out there with a dummy in it.
Should have kept that Explorer, I guess.
You know,
I apologize. I gotta stand. I got a leg
Is
cramp.
that everything on the Sheriff Hook's office? Anything else?
nope.
Future business.
Probably just those see how he's at with those contracts then and getting it signed for the city. What they
Okay.
say, I guess.
Griggs County property value increase.
Yep.
That better be an ongoing discussion.
Can we just say change because not all of it increased?
Mm-hmm. Anything else?
He's not here.
Oh, well, let's see if anybody has got more future business. So, since Scott Tramby's not here, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Motion by Avriel to adjourn. Is there a second to that?
I'll second that.
Second by Zorn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Next meeting, this room, Thursday, November 16th at 2:30.